Welcome to One Sharp Sword, cutting through to what matters most. I'm your host, Dr. P, Dr. Wayne Pernell, your host, your guide, and your coach on this journey. Today, I am joined by Ryan George. He is the Chief Marketing Officer at Docupace Technologies and a recognized leader in the wealth management technology space. Brian's career trajectory weaves together such areas of marketing, leadership, and culture, and he's known for developing teams where ideas are welcomed and people are genuinely supported. Let's find out about how he's learned to balance ambition, boundaries, and care for his people. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you, sir. I'm so pleased to be here. That's such a lovely introduction.
It's great to have you here. And the reason you're here is because two things. I reach out to leaders from around the world and just find all kinds of interesting things about the personal journey, and it's so relatable. And the other is that your journey in in fintech, right? Finance and technology, it's like it's incredible because for you, people are first and culture matters. And that is a sweet spot for me. So I love sharing that message. So I'm really glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm excited about the conversation.
Yeah, talk to me then. Let's jump into the conversation. Talk to me a little bit about I mean, you didn't start at Docupace and you didn't start as a chief marketing officer, and you also didn't get into people management right away. And a CMO is not typically involved in people and culture the way you are. So I would love to have you talk just a little bit about, well, yeah, you you studied what in college? Right? So what were your key influences that got you to where you are? And then let's talk about culture where you are.
So that it's an interesting story. So I am a
I'm
graduate.
glad.
I'm a graduate from the University of Texas at Austin. I have a degree in public relations, and my funny story about having a degree in public relations is I literally checked the box because I thought it was something that sounded cool. I didn't really know anything about public relations, but when I got in, I realized that it was a very acclaimed public relations school. I think at the time it was like number three in the world, and I was one of 50 people that got in. I thought, well. I guess I better try this thing out if I'm in this sort of small group at this illustrious school. And so I graduated from UT, and it was a early 2000s. The economy wasn't always the best, and so I ended up as a registered rep. So I was somebody who answered the phone. Thank you for calling such and such, and how can I help you? And that was not for me. I could tell you, but I will say that year and a half or so that I did that job, it helped me built some skills that I have still using today. One is learning to think on your feet, and learning to be able to understand people and hear them. But also, I had to get licensed and had to go deeper into what you would normally think of as a part of like a in a wealth management space. And so that gave me this baseline knowledge that I still dip into today. And I think that that's a critical piece and why where have found value is being able to really understand not only the technology side, but also sort of how the business ticks.
Oh, that's great. So, how did you get into the financial side of things? I mean, you know, the from a like a call center kind of,
Yeah.
in customer support and or customer retention.
So I know you've interviewed people all over the world. I don't think you've heard this one before. So I got into that field because my grandfather was the maintenance person at the building and basically strong-armed the CEO into giving me an opportunity to get a job. So thank you, Grandpa. Thank you, Papa, for help basically kicking off my career. But what he did, and like anybody else, and I would say this time in age is, if you know somebody who's young, find a way to give him a shot. Because what he did is give me an opportunity to show my worth. It wasn't didn't give me a career. He didn't give me, he gave me an opportunity to work, and I was able to take that opportunity and run with it.
Okay, and this was in a financial.
Yes, it was at a mutual fund investing firm.
Gotcha. Okay, because
So
it was like, so where does the financial part of PR weave together, and it was in a financial firm.
Yes, sir. So then I started doing, so I was still an individual contributor. I ran the PR department for a while. And I had the benefit of being uh, uh, working for a leader who was really media savvy and really media connected. And so we did lots of media. We were, I think literally the first day of my job as a PR person, I booked somebody on CNBC. To me, that was like, you know, that was a moment of like, hey, you can do this job, right? That's the aha, like I'm no longer an imposter. I'm good at it. And that was that was a big change for me because he got me thinking fast. And what I learned in that role, I think the biggest takeaway was journalists really value responsiveness. They really value people who can deliver them, like they have a need, and whoever can fill that need the quickest and in the best way, they're going to come back to you, right? So that's where I learned to sort of really start managing people in a way of managing connections in a way where making that human connection, right? So like taking the time to actually understand who Dr. Wayne is. And even though you're just a professional contact, I think that has really led to where I am on the people side, which is, let's forget titles, let's forget roles where we come from. Let's spend some time making that connection with each other because in the end, we're all humans and that's what we need.
That's awesome. That's so great. And that's how I do my business. That's how I value doing business with people. Years and years and years ago, decades ago, there was a telephone commercial when people were moving from rotary dials to push button phones, when there were still phones. Uh,
Yeah.
Why in my day? And the commercial was reach out because the best business calls are personal. And it was a slogan that just stuck with me. Um,
That resonates with me today. Because it
yeah,
is the, I think, and I strongly believe this, that making a connection with people and understanding them and actually becoming a true friend, not somebody who looks over their shoulder just to see who else is in the room that they can go talk to. Like, I think I've found that has really stood out in business because like there's lots of those other people who are looking over the shoulder or waiting or trying to have this surface level conversation. And if you're looking to have a more deeper connection, you're going to stand out with the people that you're interacting with.
yeah, yeah, it does. It does make you stand out. Presence, I mean, it's something that I help leaders with because the distractions on that are pulling at each of us at any given moment. I mean, think about how many times your phone dings. And for someone in leadership, it's not just social media giving you an alert. There's all kinds of stuff. And so to be so present, just focused, grounded in the moment for this other person, it matters so much.
It's very difficult, and I think we go so just moving forward. So how I got to team. So
Yeah,
I
please.
was in a department where I joined as the senior corporate writer, which is the most official, boring, vanilla title I've ever had in my life. Luckily, I didn't have that title too long. But I was the bottom of the organization, and within 3 years, I had moved from being the lowest on the totem pole to I was running the department. What's interesting about people stepping into leadership roles, I was leading in the department and I led the department for a year before I was ever put in the official role of the head of the marketing department. And so I think sometimes people want their careers to move fast, but sometimes those things that steps that you need to take, like do the work before the reward, may that may because the reason I think effective as a people leader, specifically in that role, is I was leading the group without any organizational authority. I was leading the group based on influence, support, relationship, both internally in the department and outside of the department. And I think that put me in the position to best lead that group because I was in there with them. They knew who I was, they knew the work I did, they knew that I was working just alongside them just as hard as they were. And so I think that has helped me be a leader that I am now because that gave me a sort of an effort to learn on the go.
Yeah. So you had to learn what actually motivated each person. Um, the term is positional power, right? And you didn't have that, right? Um, so you learned your people. You learned what mattered to them. You supported them along the way. That's kind of
It,
huge.
and it was hard. I don't want to like to your listeners and the people you work with. I want to be very clear. This was not an easy road. Two moments really stand out. One is we did a 360 review, like a analysis, like people like a leader review, like what is it called, like a 360 and
Right.
review for feedback. And the feedback I got from both my fellow team members and other leaders outside the department was not good. I mean, it was to the point where, it was like you take the littlest thing personally, like you ignore all the good feedback and you focus on those two things. And I didn't, I was appalled at the way that they were describing how I was showing up, which the truth is how they see me show up was the truth, like not how I thought I was showing up. And so that was tough. And then the other piece was I remember the day I had gone and run an errand and I looked and saw that the job that I was quote unquote performing in the company had posted it to on LinkedIn to start hiring for that position, and I didn't even know. They didn't even tell me about it. Um, and that was a hard moment. But that was the right thing. They were not only looking for the internal candidate, but they were looking to make sure the internal candidate matched what was available in the marketplace. I understand all that now. At the time, probably not so much, but and
Yeah.
so those are the lessons that I think that making that transition from being an individual contributor to being sort of a leader of the organization, it comes with some tumultuous times. It comes with some things that aren't going to necessarily go the exact way that you want. And
Yeah.
in finding your way through those and understanding the growth that you need to do in order to get there, I think is really, I mean, it really can set yourself up for success.
I think that is the success path because the journey changes you. Now, you were very clear about the path you wanted. You were pretty clear that, hey, this role, actually, I'm in it, I'm doing it, I actually want it.
Yeah.
And you were pretty clear about that. So you were willing to stay in. I'm recapping this, Ryan, because the leadership lessons here are so valuable, I think, as individual lessons. There was feedback. You took it, you got over taking it personally. It's like, okay, it's information, right? Instead of, oh, they've said bad things about me, I'm a bad person, all those things that could come up. You let all that go and you're like, okay, it's information. What do I do with it? The company is posting your job. Okay, that's information. It feels personal, like they didn't even come to me, poor me. And you got over it and you got through it. You kept a focus and a vision about what you wanted. You made relationships work. And it seems like a lot of it was done intuitively, which is kind of magical because because that's not intuitive for most people.
I appreciate you say that. It comes from hard work. I think that there's a third leg of the story that I think is critical too, is during this time I was being recruited for positions of other organizations. And what I learned was when you have skills that are displayable or representable and can transfer to different roles in different organizations, you're going to have people come for them and look for them. And understanding that you're going to use your talents in the right way for the right people, I think is an important lesson. Like there's always going to be somebody who will offer money, but we don't work for money. I work for life. And so this idea that like, oh, this person can help me do this thing. Well, I don't want to help that thing. Like that's not what I'm here for. And I think that is a key part of when you face a challenging time at a job, or things aren't going exactly as you want. Just remember who you're doing it for and why you're doing it. I think matters is probably sometimes overlooked.
Oh, you are singing my song. This is so good. It's so good. Because what you just said is all about purpose, right? When you're living in your purpose, you wake up and you go, okay, what am I doing this for? Oh, who am I doing this for? Oh, how does that affect someone else's life? Like, it feels sometimes when you're in a large organization, especially, it can feel like I'm just another
Hog in the wheel. Yeah.
another cog in the wheel. I could just, anybody could do this, whatever. And when you get past that and you go, you know what? But today I'm gonna make a difference in a dozen people's lives because I'm gonna make their jobs easier and their life easier.
So, so it's great. I ended up leading 17. I had a department of 17, not including myself. 15 of them were professional young women, which was an interesting challenge being, a young person myself, and really bonding with them and in helping play lots of roles within their lives, whether it was friend, boss, big brother, advisor, all those things. And that was something I really liked for the, and you mentioned being purposeful. There's two, you talk about one sharp sword. There's two sides of being purposeful. When you are really purposeful and intentional about something, you leave yourself vulnerable to things that happen. So in my specific case, we ended up selling the company, and the people who bought us had no interest in the people who had been running the company prior to that. And so they sent me away in a pretty poor way. And so there I was with all these things that I thought were critical, important, and set me apart, were then just unequivocally ripped away from you and said, like, basically, we don't value these things. And so you have somewhat of like, I'm sure everybody who has these sort of moments in their career, they wonder, am I doing the right thing? Did I approach it in the right way? Like, why do this? Does this person not value those things? And so that was the, I want to say, fall from grace. It wasn't the fall from grace, but that was the challenge of the moment of, hey, are you really going to be about these things, or are you not? Is this really important to you, or is it not? And I think
It was actually a challenge of
it's a
grace. It
test.
was right.
Test.
It was like, can you be in it and recognize that it's a matter of this or something better, and that
Yeah.
the reason that they cleaned house was to leave you a new journey and a new path.
Yeah. Because you
How
think
amazing.
people think their career trajectory is going to be like this sort of up to the right type trajectory, and it often doesn't go that way. But
Uh,
there's value in it
I've
going down.
I've never seen it go that way.
Yeah, true. But there's value in the hard times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 So it's like lifting weights, right? You start with even a 10-pound weight, and 10 pounds after you lift it a few times, that gets heavy. And so then you're pumping it, and it's like, okay. And then you come back to it and you do it again. You come back to it and you do it again. And suddenly 10 pounds isn't enough. You need 15. But
Yeah,
the weight hasn't changed, you have. And that's the key to getting through the hard times. I forget who said it, but it was don't pray for easier times, pray to get better.
yeah.
It might have been a Zig Ziglar quote. It's one of those like when you get better, everything around you gets better. And so, you've leveled up.
You know you are bigger than the life you are leading. It really is time to attend to that thing you've wanted to do or have, but you've been putting off. It's time to step into that dream you've parked for someday. It's time to claim true well-being, both personally and professionally, without giving up the success that got you here. It's time to check out Dr. Pernell's signature small group retreat, the Exponential Success Summit. Explore exponentialsuccesssummit.com. Seats are extremely limited as this is a very special small group event. www.exponentialsuccesssummit.com.
I want to bring it back to you and culture. I think your nature is that you see the potential in other people, and you're actually a person who sees that and moves towards it and helps others get better.
Well, I think so culturally, I think you mentioned about CMOs not always getting involved in culture. I think they should. Number one,
They
because I
should
firmly
too.
believe that your people are your strongest marketing arm that you have. If you have people that are embodiment of your culture, are living, thriving at what you're doing as a business, you're naturally going to attract top talent. You're naturally going to attract top clients. Projects are going to go well, like that sort of thing. And so I am lucky enough to have worked with, CEOs and HR heads that are open to, me somewhat stepping on into their territories in terms of helping drive culture. But I think, but it's because they felt the same way. They felt that people really are the thing that is most important and most critical to the success of the business. And so that's a big part of it. I think if you were to ask my team, one of the reasons that they like our group or they like working here is that they never feel unsupported. What I mean by that is not that I go back behind them and do their work or all those things. What they feel is I'm going to be tasked with something and I feel comfortable stretching myself because I know that if it doesn't go right, it's okay. And I think but I feel comfortable enough to A, ask for help, and B, give something a try and know that if I don't do it perfectly on my first try, then I'm not going to get my hand slapped, right? And I think that I always tell people that people don't get fired for messing up. They get fired for not putting in the effort and not doing the job and not doing, like, those are the things that make people perform. It's not messing something up.
That's awesome. That's really great that it's not a gotcha culture,
No.
right? Where it's like, oh, I saw you do this, or oh, I recently been involved with an organization where one of the team leaders, he's still growing in his leadership capacity, and for him, he was clocking in his team. Well, this person was 3 minutes late.
Huh.
It's like, right? And you laugh and you laugh, right? It's like, yeah, the role that this of this team leader, it doesn't demand that his people are in at a very specific time. It demands that the job gets done because it was tech support, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, can they be there when they're needed? Uh,
Well, it's so hard. The people part, I have often told people the hardest thing you're ever going to do is manage another person. Like, you think you have this like control, basically have no control. Everything you've done is try to guide them and coach them into something. Like, it's in the end whether they do it or not. I'm not a punitive person in general, so I don't feel like that. It would never work for me to be sort of like a command and control type department, like
yeah,
because the people who log on every day, we're a distributed workforce, so people I don't face to face with my team. The people who log on every day log on because they want to. And I use the metaphor of the door, right? If you're putting your door on the handle to come into the office, and if that's not giving you energy, then it's taking energy away. And the latter is not a place that I want to be.
I love that. Yeah, you if as you enter, you're not feeling the energy. Um,
And I'm not Pollyanna-ish about it. Like,
no,
there are bad days. There are days that are tougher than others. There are days that, like, you didn't
yeah,
sleep well or stuff at home is not going the right way, or maybe you don't feel what like I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking on the majority. Is it fulfilling? And I'm not just saying is like the things you're doing every day fulfilling, but is it like the overall experience, the people you work with, who you work for, all those things, are those fulfilling or not? And I would be willing to take less money, work more, um, if I know that those things will be there.
that's so great. So I'm teasing out values as you're talking. One is that you do have a learning organization, that it's, mistakes are really not mistakes unless they're done over and over and over again. And that you learn from them and that's how you grow, which is great. There's great tolerance for that. I love the idea of does what you do give you energy? I think you have a responsibility to bring the energy as well. And if every time you show up, you're like, oh my gosh, I,
Well, that's a critical piece. So, as a chief marketing officer, part of our role with myself and my team is to bring the positive energy. Like, it's a core value, it's a core requirement to what we do. Like, there are people around this business who have very critical, very difficult jobs that they need our energy. to help lift them up. Like it's part of what we do. I'm not saying we're cheerleaders, but sometimes we may function in that role
Yeah,
of lifting somebody up because
you might have to.
it's part of what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of be that beacon, right? Be the beacon of light for somebody else because there's so much out there. It's so easy to get lost in kind of the dark pull. And it's like when you show up and you go, I've got this direction. I've got this thing I love. If you don't love your life, come with me. I'll show you. Maybe you'll love this part of the life. And I think that's so good. I think that that's just like just a really positive way of inviting others. I'm a fan of lift as you lead, and I
Yeah.
think that's one way of doing it.
Yeah, I do think there are limitations, right? So if I had a team of 50, I probably couldn't lead the same way that I lead today.
Sure.
And I think that that's something to keep in mind is finding. So the way to answer that, I think, is to find out your lieutenants and build your structure that message is carried regardless of hierarchy. So like you're the next level down, they have that similar understanding of like you don't have to be there for every meeting or be there for every conversation. That's hard. It's hard to keep that together, hiring the right people, um, and sort of building that team culture. There also, I would caution against um, your own team carving up and building their own wall within the organization, saying, "Well, that's them, not us. Our team's great." Like that sort of mindset, I think, can be really challenging, and sort of undermine what you're hoping to do.
Yeah, that's an important insight, Ryan. The idea of silos. You didn't say it that way, but that's really
Yeah.
when someone it's kind of this internal tribalism that happens in organizations. Our team, our stuff, our resources. When multiple cross-functional teams, you could move so much faster when you share these resources that are, one person's doing research on something and one person's doing the same research, slightly overlaps.
Yep.
What happens if you share it?
Or if one person may have one idea, um, and another person have a similar idea, but the two ideas together actually become the thing that can become real, right? And I think
Yes.
so I think there's some fundamental pieces to that. What is like don't seek credit, share credit. So like
Yep.
if you seek credit, I think you're going to undermine the ability. And if you share credit, then there's never going to be like it's never going to stop coming, right? Because people always want to give credit to those who are sharing it with others and who are saying it wasn't me, it was the group. These other people helped happen, and so that like lends that mindset lends itself to people recognizing the work that you're doing. If somebody does great work but says, "Look how great this work is," and look how great I did, nobody's going to respond to that in a positive manner.
It's true. People
Even if
want
it's factually correct, that doesn't mean like that people respond that way.
it is true. People want the mirror and they want to know uh that it touches more broadly. If you think back to the Super Bowl, the interviews afterwards by the winners were all about we. It wasn't, yeah, I had a good time or yeah, I played really well. It was uh yeah, we, the team, my brothers, like they were talking about themselves as this moving
Yep.
organism that they each relied on each other. I love
It
that,
stands out. That's the same thing
right?
happened in college football with the Indiana team. Like there was, it was the group stands out together, not as the individual stands out. And I think what that gives you, and like I think we've all, at least many of us, remember what it's like to be on a high performing team, like a
Yeah,
sports team or a competitive team, and realize like what really made that great. And it's really the person next to you or the person across from you and them succeeding. And if you have a bad game and they have a great game, you're just like genuinely happy for them and
yeah.
not like, well, I'll do better next time. Like I think these things, it's right in front of our face in culture all the time. And yet I don't know if people give it enough care and thought, um, or even realize the power of it.
So this is great. The question that comes up for me is who's at your shoulder, right? who is there to support you and who are you responsible for supporting? As a team leader, as a team leader, it's you. You're shoulder to shoulder with everybody, right? That everybody on your team, your job is to reduce friction for them to do their jobs.
Well,
Eh,
I used a metaphor in an all-team call a couple months ago. I'm a big fan of medieval England, the sort of the wars fought against the Anglo-Saxons and the Britons and the Danes. And I was using the term the shield wall, that the reason the shield wall, which is where all the soldiers would line up and basically form a wall that would block the incoming army, is really just as strong as the person next to you and the person next to you. Like basically your left arm becomes the shield, your right arm becomes the attack side, but you need the person to your left to protect you as you attack. And so together the shield wall can be unbreakable. In individual, the shield wall is easy for the army to break through. And so I think that type of mindset is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, it's what you're talking about. It's awesome. I love this. So what do you think your team would say about you now? Your first 360 wasn't so great. What do you think they would say about your leadership? Where do you see yourself as really strong, and where do you see yourself as in this growth place?
So I think from a strength standpoint, I think it's supported. I think they definitely feel supported and they feel stretched, meaning that they're not afraid to try something that they may not be an expert in because they know that I'll be there to support them. And that could come in lots of different ways. That can come from providing the right feedback. When somebody's trying something new, like giving accurate feedback and giving it in a way that is lands in the right way, so that doesn't necessarily prevent them from trying again. I think the other piece probably is in finding the right ways to manage the interpersonal relationships within the team. So they can all be super close to me and not be close with each other. And I think getting them to understand the importance of them being close to each other, I think is important. Things that I could grow at, I think one,
Let me pause you before you go there. So, managing the relationships within the team, are you actively helping them engage with each other?
yes, I generally, when I assign an assignment, I generally it's like a twofold way, which is one person is the doer and another person is responsible for helping them or reviewing their work. That's because I strongly believe as like a creator of content, you can't be the person who reviews the content like that. Just you don't see things that are right in front of your face. And so we generally have a rule where I'll assign it to say Nora, who's on my team, and have Ashley be the reviewer. And so that helps, I think, build those connections because it doesn't come back to me until it's ready to go. And so basically it cuts down on my workload because I have a finished piece or finished item that's ready to go. All I need to do is just do a cursory review of it.
That's awesome. Okay, so it's about perspective, which is what good leadership is. It's what, really strong coaching is. You bring a perspective that the other person can't see. And using the buddy system, I think, is phenomenal, where
It's
you are, yeah,
we
you've got one person doing, you've got somebody else from the outside who's going, oh, you know what? The way I see it, this could be shifted just this way.
we also do that same thing when we're meeting with departments outside of our team. So like I rarely will ever have one person on my team meet with an outside, like the sales team or the product team. And for that, it's not necessarily strength in numbers because we're not fighting, but it's more about um, sharing. Okay, I heard this. Did you hear this? Okay, I heard this too. Like, and so you get sort of an additional perspective of what happens in the meeting. So like that's just some general ways I think that we've tried to set up the team. We also spend, like I mentioned before, we're a distributed workforce. So every day, Mondays we do 30 minutes, but every day other than that, we have a 15-minute stand-up right in the middle of the day. And the reason for that is less about work, but more about no matter what happens, to get a time with each other each day. So you could be heads down the entire rest of the day, could be traveling, but try to make sure you can make that meeting as much like that's a priority to make that meeting because It's again like, hey, how did your son's baseball game go last night, or how did this happen? And that sort of just sort of casual conversation, while scheduled, which isn't the best, but scheduled. I think that's an important part of keeping the team as a team.
Do you facilitate that?
Yeah, I because I am chief marketing officer, I tend to be when I'm in the meeting, they tend to wait, like I drive the conversation, but I also they're instructed to meet whether I'm there or not. I travel quite a bit, so I can't always make the meeting, but
Right.
they do, even if it's only two of the three of the team members, I still instruct them to meet just to check in and know that somebody else is out there.
This is great. Ryan, I really appreciate your style. It's sort of like, well, this is just what I do. And it's not like, this is what, you need to do in order to make this right. It's more, this is just what I do. I help people talk to each other and understand each other. And I love that. Let's go back to your growth edge. Where do you think you're growing?
So where I think I could grow is getting more formalized and stair-stepped growth of my team, meaning um, how do I get you from X to Y? And not just love your job and love what you do and love who you do it with, but actually push their career in a way to they can get to the next position. I think an effective leader has a time frame with their employee, and your job is, in reality, is to try to get them to their next, get them prepared and ready for their whatever the next step in their career may be. And I think sometimes I may unintentionally and unconsciously not focus on that because I love working with them and don't want them to go. And I think that that's not necessarily how I want their outcome to be. And so I need to work better about making sure I'm helping them get to match what their career is. Their career, maybe I want to be here, which is fine. But also I need to understand what are their goals, what do they want in life, and how can I help facilitate that?
That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh, so good. What if if I were to say, okay, so the top three leadership lessons over the past 2 decades that you think you've learned, they'd be what?
Um, Figure out the right people to work for. The first, like, because it trickles down. Like if you're constantly playing the shield between the top of the company and your team members, then you're not in the right spot. Like you shouldn't play that role. You should be the carrier of messages downward. You shouldn't necessarily have to have, it stops with you and doesn't go like that, sort of shielding your team. That's one, I think. Two is, um, however much time it takes, understand the power of it getting bumpy. Understand where if everything comes easy, you're not pushing yourself. And so understanding what those bumpy times and how they can lead to personal growth. I mentioned before I had lost my job and been laid off and basically told, yeah, you no longer work here. That was an identity crisis for me. And I sought therapy and sought assistance and help. And he told me, and I think I've shared this with you before, he said, I'm so happy you're here. You're 39 years old at the time. And I'm generally seeing people who are 59 years old at the end of their career just realizing this. And they realize that like life has passed them by before they reach this point. And he's like, you don't understand how lucky you are that you're reaching it now. And I'd say that years later, I still repeat that because that's something that I think I've taken to heart and tried to live my life that way. Number three is understand that everybody has these lives and everybody has the life that, and you're managing their life and their job, and understanding that people will go through bumps. They may have stuff that takes their focus away from their job at the moment, but focus on the big picture. Like don't be too quick to be punitive or punish people when they're not performing it the right way. Find out how you can get them back to performing versus how you can punish them for not performing. I think that has been more important than almost anything else because people go through cycles, people go through tough times, and I think if they see you as a resource that can help, they can be safe with, and they can like find support, then they'll be loyal, they'll work hard for you, and they'll basically run up whatever hill you ask them to run up.
That's so great. I think it was Patton who said, if I stood outside of a door and gave this long line of people $20 for coming through the door, that would be one thing. But to stand on this side of the door and have people come through because they want to, because they're recognized, because there's something in it for them, that's leadership. And it's that's what you're creating. It's so those are three strong leadership pieces. Figure out the right people. I think understand the power of it being bumpy is almost like a book title, right? The power of bumpy. And and to recognize we all have our own lives. We all have ups and downs. And if you're in this gotcha or punitive environment, it doesn't help. So, really recognize that we all have ups and downs, we all have seasons, we all have times that we're at our best and can lift others. We all have times that we just need to, you know, withdraw for a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
one of the other things is the hardest thing you'll do is to manage another person. I pulled that out from the notes that I was taking,
Yeah.
and that is so true. That's really great. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you were hoping we'd cover during our short time together?
No, I think we covered everything. If anybody's listening and wants to hang out, become friends, you can reach me on LinkedIn at RA George, Ryan George, or email me at Ryan_George at Docupace, which is DOCUPACE. I would love to meet you.
That's awesome. All right. So yeah, a couple of ways. Look him up on LinkedIn, and Ryan is inviting you to reach out to him directly as well, which I always appreciate. So really amazing having you here.
Thank you so much.
I'm reflecting on just it was so much in a short time. And I really appreciate it, Ryan. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Love having you.
Yeah, really good. Really good to have you here. All right, my guest today, Ryan George. You can find him on LinkedIn or reach out to him at Docupace. I am Dr. Wayne Pernell, Dr. P, your host, guide, and coach on this journey. This is One Sharp Sword, cutting through to what matters most. Thanks for being here. We'll see you here next time.